What's going on, OpeCast? Today I have a very special guest. He's a comedian, actor, producer, writer, the St. Louis legend. Would like to welcome Guy Torry.
What's happening, man?
Bro, welcome, man.
We look like Kendrick and Drake sitting over here.
Oh, damn. Man, well, I mean, you're from St. Louis.
Yeah.
You're on the West Coast. What's that energy like right now?
Oh, I love LA. I love LA dirty draws, man. I just do. It's just LA, and I'm away from the Hollywood fray. You know, I live downtown LA, man, and that bubble, man, and I just love. You know, LA, it keeps you on your toes. Mm-hmm. That's why I love LA, because it keeps you on your toes with all the other entertainers out there and athletes and things like that. You gotta step your game up. You gotta stay in the race. Mm-hmm. You're not competing, but you just want to be, you know, as successful and in the conversation and in that circle of people who are doing it.
Yeah. Do you catch yourself just blasting Kendrick right now?
Hey, you know, I'm from St. Louis, lived in the East Coast, but I've been to LA for the last 31 years, so yeah. I'm West Coast, you know.
Oh, man.
I'm Team West Coast.
That means the Rams, guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You were happy when the Rams left, though.
Yes, I was happy. I know a lot of people in St. Louis is mad, you know, that the Rams left, but they moved to me. And when they first got there, it was right down the street at USC, at the Coliseum.
When you first moved?
When they first moved.
Okay, gotcha.
So, you know, they're in SoFi Stadium now.
Yeah.
But they played at the Coliseum, which is downtown LA. So I could literally walk to games. So, of course, I'm not going to be mad that now, if they had gone to another city, I probably would have been like, you know, forget the Rams. But they moved to me.
Yeah, you know, we're in St. Louis, we're trying. We have the Battlehawks, you know.
Hey, I'm a Battlehawks fan.
Okay.
Oh, man, I followed them last season, this season. I'm glad they merged, mm-hmm. You know, the two leagues merged, because now, you know, it maybe it's more security in those leagues. But, man, yeah, I'm a Battlehawks fan for sure.
I feel like Dwayne Johnson really wanted that football team in Las Vegas, and when it happened, it was like 700 fans or 7,000 fans maybe a week. I don't even think that. But then Oakland went there.
Right.
And so I've known about you for a while, and then recently I was listening to an episode of Kevin Hart's podcast where Bob Saget was talking about you. And so before we even talk about Bob Saget, let's talk about you and your St. Louis upbringing.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to get into comedy?
My older brother Joe Torry is a legend. Is, you know, in comedy when it comes to, you know, St. Louis and St. Louis legends. Joe Torry, Cedric the Entertainer, there's Dick Gregory. You know, those guys are St. Louis legends, man. So my brother started first, and and I knew he was doing comedy, but it was Def Comedy Jam that really was the key to start the comedy engine for me. It's like I saw guys I knew on TV and people who were my age group, you know, on TV doing stand-up, and that was like, oh, I can do that, because I knew who Richard Pryor was, I knew who Eddie Murphy were, and Red Fox and those guys. But when I saw, you know, somebody that I physically knew on TV, I was like, bam, Cedric, you know, those guys. So yeah, that's what did it for me.
Were you guys in the same circle? Joe
and Cedric were, because they used to compete in talent shows together in East St. Louis. You know, so they were kind of in the same circle. I wasn't. I was in really my own circle. Like, I didn't hang out with my brother a lot when he was, because, you know, big brothers and little brothers, you know, they don't want the younger siblings hanging out, you know, when you're younger.
Yeah.
So no, I was in a different circle. I had my crew of friends, my core friends.
How much older is Joe than you?
We're 4 years apart.
So you were like excited when he moved out of the house, because then you were the funny one in the house?
Well,
is that how that worked?
I was excited, yeah, that's pretty much. But you know what though? I was always in the background. I was always, you know, Joe's a funny one. But everybody in my family is funny though. We were the only two that did it professionally. But Joe, I had my own room, because I used to wet the bed until I was 13, so that worked out in my favor.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter when he moved out, but yeah, I got a little bit more attention.
So you went down to SEMO for school?
Southeast Missouri State University, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, yep.
Did you know what you were doing down there? Or you just like, I got to go away to school?
Yeah, it was just a thing to do. I wasn't really a schoolie, but go to school, people. I wasn't really, because my mom's an educator. She retired teacher. My older sister retired educator. So I was just clowning, really. I like sports. I like music. Football, track, basketball, wrestle, and I was in a band. So I like that stuff about school, and like maybe home ec or something. You get to make shit.
Make stuff.
Yeah.
There's a guy down the hall. If he's here, I'll have to introduce you. But your mom taught him in the 2nd grade.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, it must have been at Bishop Healy Elementary School. Yeah, it must have been, or Euclid Montessori School. Either one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
okay.
crazy.
I know. Like I was telling him, I was like, yeah, man. Like he was asking me who's coming on the pod because it's always like I had Keon Harold.
Oh yeah, that's my guy.
Oh really?
I'm on his album.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah, I had just had him recently and a few others.
Good dude too, man.
Man, he's awesome.
Talented dude.
I'll say, I mean, there's just something about like, I think right now in St. Louis we're starting to celebrate those who have started here, moved on, but like they're still giving back and inspiring people.
Right.
But it's like that's like he's somebody that like I've always heard about. When I dug into his career, I was like, what the hell?
I met him in 2010. I was the opening act and host for the Maxwell Jill Scott tour, and he was in the band. So we kicked it off, and he told me he was from Ferguson. He was like, "Oh, snap, okay."
St. Louis.
Yeah, the Lou.
When you travel, do you usually have like a STL hat on? Because today you're in St. Louis with a different team.
I got an LA hat on today, only because I didn't have one to match. You know, what I got on, and this LA stands for love always or laugh always.
I love that.
But I'm a Cardinal fan, true and true. You cut me open, I'm bleeding Cardinal red for sure.
Was that your first time throwing out the first pitch?
First time throwing out the first pitch at the Cincinnati Reds game, Cardinals game, and man, it was a dream come true. When they told me, I was giddy. I was like a schoolboy. I was excited. I went and practiced, because what you don't want to do
Was the 50 Cent where you
is a 50 cent. So when you black, we're known as like, some of the best athletes.
Yeah.
Right? And then me being a little guy, I always overachieved in sports. Football, like I said, those sports, I was great at them. I was never good at baseball. Like baseball wasn't my thing. So, and I'm all about prep. If you follow my career and a lot of interviews I've done, it's like the difference between me, my brother and I. My brother is extremely confident, right? I'm not. I'm very insecure. So I prep. I do a lot of prep before I have to do something.
Yeah.
And so before I threw out that first pitch, I prepped, like my arm was sore, but I went and did some prep, man. I threw a couple of times because I was not going to do a 50 Cent or a Stephen A. Smith.
Yep, where you're like all confident.
Yeah.
I threw the ball I think 5 times because I did like a fun like promo video,
Right.
and I had my little cousin, and I threw it 4 times, and I was like, man, if I throw it one more time, like I'm gonna need that Tommy John.
Right.
So I didn't realize that because you're like, oh man, I still got it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, for real though, like, do you have any advice for me? Like, I don't want to mess up. And he was like, just throw the ball. Don't aim, just throw it. And so like that walk, I've had some other people that have thrown out the first pitch on here too.
Right.
And you're like, oh man, that ain't gonna be that bad. And you start walking to the mound, and in my head I was like, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. And then you just like almost like black out, and
Right.
you just like.
No, that didn't bother me. I was ready. It was my sister's husband's sister's in-law, my in-laws, Shauna and Stephanie, the McWoods. She roped it off. She got a rope, and it was 60 feet by 6 inches, and it was on an incline where we threw. And so I was on the top part, she was on the bottom part, and I was just practice throwing. I was not gonna fail, and I was looking forward to. I was not gonna fail.
I mean, if you threw the 50 Cent, I mean, you would have gone viral, man.
I know. I thought about that. I said, man, if I do mess this up, I can go viral. But, viral just has to be organic. When you try to go viral, it usually doesn't happen. So it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah. So we're going to take a step back. Like when you were down at SEMO, you started doing comedy shows or comedy jams? Is that
Not
right?
really. I mean, if you want to call it that. Like, I didn't know really what comedy was. What it was like in the student union, we would eat lunch, and there was this big glass window that everybody had to walk past to get into the student union. So me and my crew would just sit there all day and talk about people and walk across the glass. So it started becoming popular. So it wasn't like it was a show. Well, it was a show. People knew at a certain time, Monday through Friday, we'd be sitting there in front of that glass, either roasting each other or roasting anybody that comes across that window. And so it became almost like a show. But yeah, that's what it turned into that.
And so like when you got done with school, you realized you couldn't do that.
No. Let's back up.
Okay.
When school got done with me,
You're like,
I got kicked out, man. I got kicked out and banned from Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
whoa, all right, now we have to dive into that. How did you?
Me and law enforcement got a little in an entanglement. No diddy. We got into no Jada. We got into an entanglement, a physical entanglement, and they didn't fare too well at first, but they got the last. They got the last laugh, but
Southeast
I got the
Missouri.
first one. Hope your jaw's okay, sir. Anyway.
So you had no choice but to leave Southeast, you know?
They put me on the Trail of Tears. You know, if you ever driven from St. Louis to Cape Girardeau, it's a sign. It's the Indian trail called Trail of Tears. And then my Trail of Tears was back to St. Louis.
Did you stop by, was it Lambert's on your way home?
The
home of the throw.
I should have, right?
You're out here throwing punches, might as well throw some rolls. Like.
Yeah, man, they got me. They got me at SEMO. It was good times though, because I ended up going to Forest Park Community College after that. It was the same thing in the cafeteria, people coming they were throwing jokes, joning, cracking jokes, the whole nine. So everywhere I went, it was that. When I worked in stores, I'd take my break, and everybody wanted to take a break when I took my break because I'd be in there, roasting people. So it became, it was my early comedy shows, really. Not knowing really that comedy was still kind of a profession.
Yeah, that you'd be able to make a living off of making others
feel
good,
what I got kicked out of class for, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, man, if I'd have known that, I'd have dropped out in third grade and went pro early.
Now you can with a TikTok or YouTube.
For real, yeah, you can.
You're out there in LA for Def Comedy Jam. That was it Russell?
Russell Simmons, yes.
So he had that. Would you compare that to like kind of what Nick Cannon's doing with?
It's pretty much the same because you're giving comedians a platform to showcase their talent. You know what I mean? So Def Jam inspired, Phat Tuesdays, my comedy night, and Phat Tuesdays inspired Wild 'N Out. Nick Cannon's, because I came through Def Jam, and then I started Phat Tuesdays, and Nick Cannon came through Phat Tuesdays, and he started Wild 'N Out, and so it's we're all related, we're all kinfolk.
That's awesome.
And use those as inspirations and go do what you do, and as all of them did, a platform to showcase some of the funniest women and men, and other pronouns. And don't want to offend anybody, and people in comedy.
Let's talk about Phat Tuesday.
Yeah.
You changed the game. How did that come about? I know it's right after the Rodney King riots. It was at 1980.
Well, it was inspired by that indirectly.
Okay, indirectly.
You know what I mean? The documentary is still doing very well on Amazon Prime, and it was inspired by the lack of industry presence in South Central Los Angeles at comedy clubs, where it used to be the spot where Hollywood would come to scout black talent, and celebrities would come to see black talent, right? And so when the Rodney King verdict happened and the rioting happened in South Central and other places spread out through Los Angeles, the Los Angeles area, it stopped that industry train coming to the hood, to take us back to Hollywood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that happened before I even got to LA, right? I got to LA in '92. The riots had happened earlier that year in '92, and I don't blame them. I mean, if you looked at the news and the footage from back then, those neighborhoods were inflamed. Places got looted. It was dangerous. When you got big army tanks, rolling down the street to keep places safe, that's not a place you want to go. It looked like a third world country at that point after all of that. So I can understand why they wasn't coming, south of Wilshire Boulevard, which was almost like the Mason-Dixon line in LA from hood to upper echelon.
Just like Del Mar in St. Louis.
Right, Del Mar in St. Louis, exactly.
Well, you're talking about the tanks and stuff. I was like, that's how it was 2014 with Ferguson.
Yeah, exactly that. And I was watching that from LA as I was mourning my dad just passing, but also working on the Phat Tuesday documentary, still underground at the time. So the night was created because I wanted to bring the hood to Hollywood. I wanted to showcase black comedians to Hollywood. So the Comedy Store being, the really the mecca and the crown jewel of comedy was the perfect place. Sunset Boulevard is sexy. It's drugs, it's women, it's fast cars, it's everything. Stars and big cars and movie stars. So that's where it was, and that's where Phat Tuesday, because we weren't really in that area a lot. Not the way Phat Tuesdays brought the hood to Hollywood. And so it was necessary. Especially around that time because LA needed healing. LA was going through a lot.
Yeah.
LA was going through, the OJ verdict. OJ was going through the Rodney King joint. OJ was going through Latasha, I forget her last name, it was a young black girl who was shot by Koreans in the store and they got off. So the whole Rodney King thing was a tipping point. It was like, okay, boom, convulsion. And that was the needle, the straw that broke the camel's back, basically. So we needed laughter. And people ask me all the time, especially white people, why do black people laugh so loud and they're so physical? I said, because we need to laugh the most because we've been through the most. So Phat Tuesdays was needed to heal just LA, but also showcase, black comedians.
To the world.
Yeah.
Now you had all the A-listers, A-plus listers, everyone's going there. You've had people like Kobe, Shaq, and that
young Kobe. Kobe wasn't even old enough to get in Phat Tuesday. We had to sneak him in the back. He was 17, 18.
Going into Phat Tuesday with Shaq?
They didn't come together.
Oh, separate. But they end up at the same
They
place?
didn't come together. It was the same place, same time, but they didn't come together.
What was a conversation like with a young Kobe? Was he just like very like firm and? Yeah,
he was always focused, always a little bit loose. Take a picture here and there, and like do your thing. I met him briefly a little before then. I was just to do warm up sometimes for a show called Moesha, which is Brandy's show.
Yep.
And the story of Kobe taking Moesha to the prom and everything. So he came to the set one day, and so that was when he first got drafted. So that was my first meeting of Kobe. And then it was Phat Tuesdays and then games and then things like that, yeah.
How was it having Tupac attend your show?
Oh, man. Tupac loved comedy. He loved comedy, but he was always encouraging, too, because he had done the movie Poetic Justice with my brother. So I met him through my brother. I met him on the set of Poetic Justice. They were doing some reshoots of it. And he was leaving the Columbia a lot at the time. It was Sony now. And we were coming on a lot. My brother was taking me to meet Janet Jackson. And so Tupac was leaving. And we were coming and, we bumped into each other on the parking lot, on the stage lot. And I was like, wow. And I saw Juice and I seen Juice. I'm like, man, this dude's a hell of an actor. And then he met me and my brother and I, and he was going off on something, Tupac was being Tupac. I said, oh, he wasn't acting. That's really Pac.
Just walked in and to himself.
That's really Pac. But no, he was cool. But every time I'd see him, he's like, man, get out your brother's shadow, man. You got to create your own lane, man. Fuck Joe. Do your own thing, man. And so he would come to the shows all the time, man. And it was cool.
I feel like every time I go to California, anytime I'm going there.
No time to party.
Man, every time I'm on a boat or anything, man, like if I'm on a boat, I'm on whatever. Man, one time I went whale watching. I'll never do that again.
Wow.
That was, and they were playing
whale
Tupac.
Watching.
Yeah, I was in tourist mode, San Diego.
Yeah.
And the waves were choppy. I text my wife, this is it, love you, I'm out.
Right.
I won't do that again. But every time I'm there though, it's California, every time.
That was my go-up song forever when I go on stage. There's just something about it just reminds me of the 90s, reminds me of Phat Tuesdays. It's Tupac, it's Dre, it's just that the 90s was my favorite era, man, because it was black excellence, man. I mean, we're still excellent, but it was hip hop was even though it was the East Coast, West Coast, war, but it was hip hop, it was black fashion, it was black TV shows, sitcoms, black movies. It was just black, and then black comedy, Def Comedy Jam. So the 90s was just an explosion of blackness that almost how the 70s was for black exploitation.
Yeah.
And then it, went away in the 80s and the big hair and other crap came. And then bam, the 90s came like, it's almost like when you watch the Straight Outta Compton video and they come through, they bust out the sign, Compton. And that's how the 90s were. That's how we were in the 90s. We were big, we were black, we were bold, we were beautiful, we were boisterous. We was a motherfucker.
Damn, man. That sounds like a time. Like
it was, man.
I was born in '91, so
oh man,
I was rapping Tupac at the age of 7, and
really?
I just didn't know what I was saying.
Right. He was a different dude, man. He was definitely a special character, man. Really, really good dude, man.
Well, one thing that's kind of funny, so like you go to California, and that's the song that's being played, and then here in St. Louis, like especially within the last few years, they're really like pushing country grammar again.
Right. Oh yeah, I still put country grammar. I got a story about country grammar. Funny thing about country grammar was I was in Atlanta for the Super Bowl. I think it was Super Bowl 38. It was Titans Rams, right?
Yeah.
And my brother and I and Cedric the Entertainer were playing in this celebrity basketball game for Super Bowl weekend, right? At I think it was on the campus Morehouse College, and it was Floyd Mayweather was in the game, Derek Bell, a baseball player, and Scarface, I believe was there. And I'm telling you, Lunatics came in with this song to give to the DJ to play at halftime, right? And it's funny because I think the DJ they had an album. They gave him a CD or album. He had the opposite. So they went back to the van or truck or car and got whatever he needed. And they put on country grammar. And so me, Cedric, and my brother, we in the stands with some other St. Louis fans, and there were some people in the gym who was feeling it. I took that, back to LA. They gave me one. I took it back to LA, played it at Phat Tuesdays. And some people in the room was feeling it. And it's funny because that was like end of January, top of February, Super Bowl weekend, right?
Yeah. Yep.
A year later, Nelly played the halftime show at the Super Bowl. So went from, trying to get his single played at a halftime NFL experience, celebrity basketball game in Atlanta to 365 days later, actual being on stage at the Super Bowl performing with, it was Run DMC and Aerosmith, I believe it was.
I think that was a Janet Jackson. No, he did it two Super Bowls, right?
He may have done two. I know he did that one a year later. After. It was crazy because that summer is when he broke. Yeah. Like when he's like pop. So it happened. It can happen that quick. I tell people, you just stay ready. Just stay ready.
It's I love hearing that song played. In Busch Stadium, because most people don't know what that song's about, and we're not going to explain it. But like I love it. They love that I'm from Little Lou, and I'm like that's all.
That's why I love the Cardinals City edition of jerseys. On it. I was like, yeah. I heard some people have mixed feelings about it. I'm like, what? The Lou? Because that's what we say. Where you from? We're from the Lou. The Lou. Why not have the Lou on the jersey? That's what it is. What it is.
It's something different. It takes us a few years here.
Now if they put D.A. DeLu, it would have been like, it's too black.
Yeah.
That's way too black. It was can you put the? Can you put the King's English the in it?
Yeah. No, that's some real stuff. Now, you've been in lots of TV shows, lots of movies. One of my favorite movies to watch is Life. It's one of those movies that it's so iconic. The entire cast, just the amount of comedians that came together for that,
man. The talent, even the actors was just so bomb, man. That was another dream come true to work with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, and then you throw in Bernie Mac, the trifecta. Are you kidding me? And then you have the supporting cast as well, Anthony Anderson and Miguel Nunez, and rest in peace, Bear Michael Teleferro. Goldmouth. And then you had the strong actors of Babatunde and Sabaka Henley and Brent Jennings. And, I mean, it was just a cast that was crazy, crazy talented. And Cicely Tyson, what people don't know, she got cut out, but her scenes were strong in that movie, man. And she played Eddie Murphy's mom. Mm-hmm. And I guess they just felt like they didn't work with the movie. I thought her scenes should have stayed in. It would have grounded the movie a little bit more and sooner, but man, it was an amazing cast.
Sounds like that will be, you know how they like re-release movies nowadays? Right. Re-release with the extended version.
You know, and it's funny because the director, Ted Demme, rest in peace, was going to put out scenes because he wanted Cicely Tyson in there.
Yeah.
And, producers, I think, executive producers like, nah, boom, let's not do it. And he wanted to put out a version with Cicely Tyson.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy because, right now someone's probably pitching a prequel to Life or
I hope so. I hope don't do a sequel because I died. So do a prequel. Do my story how I got put in prison. Yeah.
You like coach the younger version of you. Hey man, no, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
So my question about that movie,
I can still play a younger version of me. I can still pull it off.
You look good for your age, man.
Thank you.
What's the secret? Laughs?
Man, tatas and tequila.
Fair.
Yeah.
Tatas and tequila. Yeah, you're
tatas and tequila. These right here are called nipple dippers, named by downtown Julie Brown. And what she told me to do was put some honey in it, and have a woman, stick a nipple in it, and then lick the honey off. So yeah, so tatas and tequila.
That's how you stay looking young.
That's right. Nice hot braised nipple juice.
And this is a different version of OpeCast today, y'all. We have Guy Torry in the building. Foodie Friday, Guy, what are a few of your favorite spots in St. Louis?
In the Lou, well, Mama's up there in age a little bit, so she doesn't cook as much as she used to. It's always Mama's kitchen, my mom's kitchen. But I like Prime 55,
Yep.
Not that I'm 55 years old, which is great, but Prime 55. I like the lamb chops at Prime 55.
Damn, you are 55.
Yeah.
Did you start going there before your 55th?
I was going there before I was 55, but they have two locations, one on Del Mar, right before, U City, and then one downtown. But Prime 55 is my spot that I have to go to every time I'm in St. Louis. White Castles?
White Castles. They don't have that on the West Coast?
No White Castles on the West Coast. Always got to have me an Emo's Pizza.
Yep.
Always got to have me an Emo's Pizza. I get them frozen, and I got 3 in my freezer right now back in LA, and I call it ghetto fried rice because what we call it in the hood is offensive, so I'm just gonna call it ghetto fried rice. You got to get the ghetto fried rice, and those are my my spots I love to eat when I'm in St. Louis.
Now dinner guests, this is gonna be tough for you.
Okay.
But 3 people, dead or alive, you're here in St. Louis or wherever in the world, 3 people that join you at a table, who would they be and what would you talk about?
3 people would join me at my dinner table, dead or alive. 1, my father, who passed away. I learned a lot of my wisdom and a lot of my ways and my work ethic from my dad. My mom, of course, because she brings in that spiritual side that, that gives me the confidence when I'm lacking it, and the faith when I'm lacking it. See, the other 2 would have to be, I would say, Richard Pryor, just the comedy knowledge, that he, Did
you get to meet him?
I met Richard Pryor, yes. Richard Pryor used to come to Phat Tuesdays.
That's awesome.
Got a picture with Richard Pryor. And who else? Other than, Jesus, I'm a Christian. If Jesus could sit there, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
We can have,
have some wine.
Jesus sitting there with his locks, and I'd love to sit down and, even though I talk to him every day, but to sit down and have a meal with him, hopefully it's not the meals he ate, because back when they was eating bread and they had wine though. They had wine, but I don't need the sugar with the bread. But yeah, Mom, Dad, Jesus, and Richard Pryor.
Now, words of wisdom. Let's say it's someone that aspires to do what you've done in your career, or it could be someone watching this and going through a tough time, what would you like to leave?
Words of wisdom, and for any profession, find out what your gift is. What you would do for free. And that's usually where you want to be in your career. If you're not on a job right now and you're not happy, it's because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So find what your gift is, and that's the area that you need to be in, and focus on that, because that's the gift that came natural to you, and that's the gift you should focus on. That's what you should be doing, and study the craft. Whatever you do, whatever profession you do. It could be a planter, or a garden person, get a green thumb, or entertainer, whatever, athlete, a teacher, whatever. Study that craft and learn everything you can about that craft. Because maybe you may think you want to do something, but once you study it and ask people who are in it, it may not be what you really want to do. So I would research the hell out of it. And there's no excuse these days not to research. It's right in the palm of your hands. So I would say, sacrifice. You got to sacrifice. When I first got to LA, if you see my documentary, Phat Tuesdays, I talk about when I first got to LA and not worrying about all these Hollywood parties and the women and all that. I was in comedy clubs every night, grinding it out, working on jokes, going to pizzerias doing stand-up for slices of pizza or not getting paid. It wasn't about getting paid. It was about building the craft. That's why after 2 years of doing stand-up, I was able to do one of the best damn comedy shows, period, which was Def Comedy Jam. Mm-hmm. And that's a rough audience in New York. So after 2 years doing stand-up, because all the grinding that I did, I was prepared when Def Jam happened. Yeah. So you want to be prepared when your opportunity comes. So sacrifice, focus, research, and grind. Period.
Well said. Appreciate you, man. Ooh.